Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Minimalism Made Simple podcast. My name is Rebecca, and I am the blogger over at minimalismmadesimple.com. I encourage you to head over and check out that website as I have several worksheets and checklists for you to print absolutely for free. So, thank you for tuning in today, and let's get started with today's episode. Hi everyone, how are you? So today's episode is going to be all about living with less. So we live in a society that encourages us to constantly accumulate more things and to spend our money on items that we can show off to the people in our lives. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is life all about seeing who can collect the most stuff, or is there something to be said for adopting a more minimalistic approach to material possessions? I'm excited to talk about today's topic because I think that it's something a lot of people are becoming more and more interested in. So I guess the question remains is, can living with less actually make you happier? So it has been suggested in minimalism that learning to live with less can actually make us happier. This logic almost seems to be at odds with the message that we hear from culture, which tells us that the more we own, the happier we will be. But when you think about it, it starts to make sense, right? After all, the more we possess, the more we have to maintain. And the more possessions we own, the more of our time, money, and energy we devote to keeping those things intact and even accumulating more of them. It almost becomes like an addiction or a vicious cycle. So the idea that living with less can actually make us happier is the polar opposite of every commercial and advertisement that we observe on television, on the radio, in magazines, and on the internet. It is a bold statement that flies in the face of mass consumerism. But maybe in spite of all these conflicting messages, simplicity really is the way to go. You may question, why is living with less better? Simply put, we are distracted by our stuff and by the forces that drive us to accumulate it. I mean, think about it. How many hours do you spend working just so that you can afford more things? How much time do you spend away from family and friends because you're busy playing with a new toy or gadget that you recently purchased? How much of your free time do you spend cleaning, moving, organizing, and reorganizing all of your stuff? So these are just some of the questions we can begin to ask ourselves. Another question is, how many times have you made a conscious effort to declutter and get rid of some of your stuff to only end up replacing it with more stuff? You can think about the last time that you moved, for example. Do you remember all the things you found while going through your house that you forgot you even had? Do you remember trying to pack everything into boxes only to have to dig it out at the new house, unpack it, and find a new home for it there? Do you maybe even remember thinking that you wish you didn't have quite so much stuff because it would have made your life so much easier? It gets you thinking that maybe there is something to the mentality that simplicity is better and that minimalism makes us happier. It is definitely an idea worth considering and exploring, and that's completely up to you if you want to go ahead and explore this idea. Because one thing is for sure, accumulating tons of things sure isn't making us as happy as we thought it would. So I want to dive into 21 benefits of living with less, and I'm very excited to share these benefits with you today, and I hope that you find some value in these benefits. So let's go ahead and get started. The first benefit is you can focus on the things you value most. When your house is filled with stuff, the items in your life that have real meaning, tend to get lost in the shuffle. If your eyes don't even know where to land when you walk into your living room because everything is so cluttered and your belongings are everywhere, you lose the ability to display the items you value most. Perhaps you'd like to show off pictures of your family or keepsakes from relatives who have passed away. Give these valuable items prime real estate in your home by getting rid of some of the clutter so that your most prized possessions can garner the attention that they deserve. Benefit number 2 is that you can live a more compact lifestyle. So go back to your memories about the last time you moved. How much easier would it have been if you had been living a simple, minimalistic lifestyle? Packing would have been a lot easier if you only had to move 10 pairs of shoes rather than 50 pairs. Or if you didn't have 45 boxes devoted to random stuff you found as you were going through your closets. Living with less frees you up to move around and to travel more and be more portable and compact. You never know when that might come in handy. Benefit number 3 is a good one. You can find things more easily. So if your house is filled with random stuff, that sure does make it harder to find things that you need. But if you make it a point to get rid of the clutter and give every item a home, it will be a lot less hectic when you need to look for things you haven't used in a while. Benefit number 4 is that you can relax more often. So think about how much more time you can spend relaxing if you don't have to constantly go through your stuff, or clean it, or organize it, or shift through piles of it in search of other things. The less you own, the fewer chores you'll have dominating your schedule, and the more time you can spend relaxing and doing things you actually enjoy. So benefit number 5 is you won't feel tied to the past. Do you ever come across a keepsake from a past relationship and being forced to remember the person who hurt you or who made you feel angry? Or perhaps it brought up old feelings that you don't want to really deal with at the moment or really reminiscent at the moment. When you haven't decluttered in a while, chances are you have a lot of stuff from previous chapters in your life that you no longer need, that you no longer want, or that don't really serve a purpose in your current life. So if you're in the habit of getting rid of old stuff regularly, you can avoid run-ins with unpleasant moments from the past. Benefit number 6 is that your space will be more visually appealing. So if you ever scroll through pictures of homes on Pinterest, there is a common denominator that the photos all represent homes that are well decorated and not cluttered. They have just enough stuff to provide stylish visual appeal, but you don't feel like you want to attack the room with a giant garbage bag, right? So with less stuff, your space will be more visually appealing, both to yourself and to your guests. Benefit number 7 is that you'll feel less stressed. There is definitely a connection between having less stuff and feeling less stressed. After all, the more stuff you have, the more time you have to spend thinking about it. Nothing says peace of mind like a minimalistic lifestyle where you only have what you need and you know exactly where all of it is at any given time. Benefit number 8 is that you'll be less tempted to compare. When you reject the materialistic focus that culture tries to push onto you, you'll automatically spend less time comparing yourself to others, and you'll feel less tempted to compete. There's nothing like shaking off the pressure of keeping up with the Joneses. Benefit number 9 is that you can do the work you love. So think about how many people are working long hours or work jobs that they don't really like, just so that they can afford to buy lots of cool stuff. Having less stuff and attaching yourself on the materialistic worldview can free you up to work a job that you might love, or to work fewer hours because you won't have as many expenses to keep up with. Benefit number 10 is you'll feel light and refreshed. So think about the last time you really cleaned or even just cleaned a room in your house. Or maybe you went through your closet and got rid of everything you haven't worn in a year. Do you remember how light and refreshed you felt? You can feel that way all the time when you commit to living with less. Benefit number 11 is that you can own higher quality items. So I say a lot in this podcast that I personally think that it's better to own quality instead of quantity. So if you're spending less money on having a large quantity of items, you can invest that money in higher quality items instead. So rather, for example, than having 10 cheap purses, you can save up and buy a really nice one. Or instead of having a house full of junk, you can save up and buy that new kitchen set that you've been eyeing in the store. So it's all about really focusing your time and your money on quality things that last longer rather than quantity, which clutters up your home. And living with less is not about not owning anything or not being able to buy anything. That's not what minimalism is about, and that's not what living with less is about. It's just really focusing on things that are going to serve you purpose in life and things that are going to add value to your life instead of taking the value away from it. Benefit number 12, which kind of goes hand in hand with what I've been talking about, is that you'll be in control of your money. So resisting the impulse to buy lots of things trains your brain to break its materialistic habits. Before you know it, you'll have all this money sitting in your bank account, hopefully, right? We could all hope, that previously would have been spent on random clutter. The fun part is deciding what you want to do with it now that you're in control. This correlates with benefit number 13, where you can support causes that you might care about. So one of the things you might decide to do with your excess money is to give back to a cause that is meaningful to you. Now that you're living with only the things that you need, you can be a real contributor towards a cause or initiative that you believe in, which is way more valuable than any other vase or necklace or purse or flat screen TV. Benefit number 14 is that you'll set a positive example. By teaching yourself to live with less and getting in better control of your finances, you'll be setting a great example for those around you. This especially applies if you have kids or plan to have them, as our kids observe way more about our habits than we realize. But even if you don't have children looking up to you, you might find out that you have inspired your partner or relative or friend into a healthier, happier lifestyle by modeling simplicity. Benefit number 15 is that you'll be more productive. So not only will living with less result in you having more money for other things, but you'll also notice that you'll have more time on your hands when you don't have to spend it shopping, cleaning, or organizing. Once again, the fun part is deciding what you want to do with all that time now that you're in control of it. So I wrote a few blog posts about the waste that we produce through shopping fast fashion or by consumerism in general. So this kind of goes into benefit number 16, which is you'll be helping the environment. So it is actually better for the environment when you decide to live with less. It decreases your footprint and drastically reduces the amount of waste you create. And not to mention, at the end of the day, you're contributing less to the air pollution problem now that you're not driving back and forth to the mall as much. Benefit number 17 is that you'll enjoy more freedom. So living with less gives you more freedom. Not only does it free up time, money, and resources that would have been spent, but it also allows you to feel more free. Additionally, living simply means you're at a much lower risk of accumulating significant debt, which will really give you that sense of freedom you've been craving. So we have about 4 benefits left, and I want to quickly remind you that you can find all these benefits located in the blog post on my blog, and the blog is minimalismmadesimple.com. I'll link it in the show notes below, and the blog post is called 21 Benefits of Living with Less. So if you want to just go in and review everything that we spoke about on this podcast today, you can go ahead and do that. It's all there for you. Let's dive into benefit number 18, which is you'll spend less time cleaning. So if you have to clean, pay attention to, or maintain each one of your belongings in some way, then it sure does make sense to keep fewer belongings around. Just think about all the time you would spend dusting off all your little knickknacks, and that itself should give you enough motivation to do a complete overhaul. Benefit number 19 is that you can invest more in experiences. So one of the things you can do with the time and money that you save is to invest in experiences that you will remember and cherish for years to come. If you're into traveling, save up for a nice trip, or maybe you just want a weekend away with your family. Either way, experiences like this will be worth way more than any other materialistic item. Benefit number 20 is that you can spend more time with family. So having less stuff and spending less time working to afford this stuff will allow you more uninterrupted time with your friends, family, and other loved ones. In the end, that is what will bring you ultimate fulfillment, and these are the moments you will look back on wishing that you had more of. Last but not least, benefit number 21 is that you'll be less focused on material things. So overall, this is not just about cleaning your home or throwing things away. It's about a shift in mentality from putting your value in material goods to realizing that happiness actually comes from other sources. So once you get into the habit of living with less, your whole mentality will slowly shift into one that is more wholesome, more healthy, and more likely to bring you peace and satisfaction. So those are just 21 benefits of living with less, and I could go on and on about several other benefits, but of course that would take all day, so I don't want to go ahead and overwhelm you with all that information, but I do want to touch on how to start living with less. So you may be wondering, how do you begin living with less? Yes, we went over the benefits and why it's good to start living with less, but how do you actually begin to start? So a good first step would be to go through all the rooms in your home and begin getting rid of things that you don't need. Now, this, of course, is called the process of decluttering. So, for example, go through your closet and donate anything you haven't worn in a year or more. As you go through the rest of your home, get rid of anything broken, anything that you don't use regularly, or anything that just doesn't have a home in general. As you begin this process, you will notice yourself feeling more motivated to decrease the clutter around you, and you will see yourself catching on to which items you should eliminate. Key is to be patient with yourself as you adopt this new lifestyle. It's not going to happen overnight. It's something that you should take slowly and at your own pace. There is no rush when it comes to any of these tips that I mentioned or anything about the minimalistic lifestyle, because this is your personal journey, so you can choose how fast or how slow you want to go. As with any lifestyle change, the adjustment may take time, so don't feel pressured to do it perfectly all at once. Remember that you have plenty of time to get to where you need to be, and right now you are focusing on taking the first crucial steps. In the end, it is a conscious choice to live with less in a culture that tells us that we need to keep accumulating more. But as much as it may seem like a countercultural choice, many would argue that minimalism is a choice that ultimately leads to peace, fulfillment, and happiness. Let's go ahead and wrap up this episode. So what inspires you to live with less? Why did you tune in today? Did you find any of these benefits helpful? So I would love to connect with you on my website. I actually created a new workbook that you're able to find on minimalismmadesimple.com, and it's a 3-page workbook about your minimalist journey. So it's a little bit of journaling into your own personal journey, and I ask questions that really gets you to dive deep into that journey of yours. So I'd love if you'd go ahead and download that whenever you have a chance. It's absolutely free, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.